the recent media storm around a 106-year-old woman who had a chance to go to the White House made me change what I was going to say. And one of the things that I want to make sure that folks understand is when she was quoted as saying, "I can die happy." That means so much. Those 4 words actually mean so much in terms of the struggle that African Americans have continued to endure over the years. And it's representative of how we continue to have more work that needs to be done. You know, Ms. McLaurin highlighted the joy as you saw her dancing. And folks, you know, some folks didn't understand why she was dancing, right? To be able to meet a president is one thing, and certainly that's something that should be celebrated. But the reality is that she never thought that she would see a day like this. She never thought that the struggles, the sacrifices, all of the things that her and many of the people that you see here standing with me had to put forth would actually result in having America's first black president. And that says something. But it also shows our progress. It also shows that we've been able to accomplish a lot. But the reality is that we continue to celebrate these firsts now, when we've been in this struggle for over 100 years. And so it's something where I always want to make sure that we appreciate the progress that we've made, but also talk about how long it's taken for us to get there and how much still needs to be done. As I celebrate the fact that a young man who grew up and was born and raised here in Montgomery County could be the president of the council a couple years ago is a big deal for me. But the reality is that those things should be the norm, not the celebration. And until we get to that point, that's why we still have more work that needs to be done. So that being said, I want to read this proclamation, and I know that we're going to have Director Stowe, who's going to speak on behalf, and then I'm going to violate the rule because I am going to allow another person to speak as well. So I apologize, Acting Council President Leventhal. But let me go ahead and read this proclamation. I'll read it fast. Whereas February is National Black History Month, which recognizes and remembers the people and events in the history of the African diaspora, and whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, setting the U.S. on a path to end slavery. 1 century later, in 1963, more than 200,000 Americans gathered for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, calling for African American civil and economic rights. And whereas Black History Month had its beginnings in the United States in 1926, when Black educator and historian Carter G. Woodson moved to officially recognize the achievements and contributions that Blacks made to our society. And whereas Montgomery County continues to evolve in diversity, having become a majority-minority county for the first time, according to the U.S. Census from 2010, including more than 16% of the population being identified as Black, which is a 25% increase from the previous decade. And whereas this year's Black History Month theme is Hallowed Ground, Sites of African American Memories, which urges communities across the nation to preserve sites that trace the African American history, beginning before the arrival of the Mayflower through the present. And whereas within the past year, Montgomery County has worked toward this goal by refurbishing the Visitor Center at the Woodlawn Manor Cultural Center, a site that played a key role in the Underground Railroad. And whereas Montgomery County is celebrating Black History Month with numerous educational opportunities at parks, museums, libraries, art venues, and historic sites throughout the month, now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby proclaims February 2016 Black History Month in Montgomery County, and be it further resolved that all residents are encouraged to recognize the outstanding achievements of African Americans who have greatly enriched our community. Presented this 23rd day of February in the year 2016, and it's signed by our County Council President, Nancy Florine.
We thank you for this opportunity to recognize this very special month, Black History Month. While it is in fact a sharing of African Americans who make up our county and our nation, it is also a chance to look at American history, because that we celebrate in the month of February is a celebration for all. I would be remiss if I not share with you that hallowed ground, as was stated by our council member, is a theme for this year's Black History Month celebrations all across the country. We'll be re-embarking on a trip down south through all the various civil rights locations as part of this celebration as well. We invite you to go to our website, the county's website, and find out about the Maryland Civil Rights Educational Freedom Tour, where we'll have a chance then to touch and talk to and be a part of history in a real sense, in a very visible sense, in a very tangible sense. And so we invite all of you then to go to our website and find out about the Maryland Educational Civil Rights Freedom Tour. I would end my comments this morning by simply adding this thought from a poem that I think is so indicative of what we talk about. And the words of, again, Councilman Rice really set this up. And the poem's entitled Frederick Douglass. When it is finally ours, this freedom, this liberty, this beautiful and terrible thing, needful to man as air, usable as earth, when it belongs to us all, when it is truly instinct, brain matter, diastole, systole, reflex action, when it is finally won, when it is more than the gaudy mumbo-jumbo of politicians, this man, this Douglass, this former slave, this Negro beaten to his knees, exiled, visioning the world where none is lonely, none hunted, alien. This man, superb in love and logic, this man shall be remembered. Oh, not with statues' rhetoric, not with legends and poems and wreaths of bronze alone, but with the lives grown out of his life, the lives fleshing his dream of the wonderful, needful thing.
Thank you, Councilmember Rice, for this proclamation and recognition of this special month. I sometimes feel as though I'm in a reverse time capsule, especially some of the things that I've seen happen recently. I was particularly disturbed by a video that went viral in Virginia a week or so ago. The video attempted to describe structural and institutional racism to our young people, to our students. And adults took exception to that and felt that it created white guilt. We cannot rewrite history. History is there for us to learn from. Obviously, in many instances, we have not learned the lesson of the past. But I do take this opportunity at this time, this month, to be proud of what American blacks have contributed to the building of this country. We are making history now. So let us not forget the past, but let not the past rule the future for us and our children. This is our history, American history, so let's make it better than it's been.
We had an extensive program last year under the leadership of Council President Leventhal, and laid out a lot of the foundation. Let me just tell you that the folks that stand around me represent Black history. They truly have been contributors that have shaped, for me as a young man growing up in this county, and I know for all Montgomery County residents, and especially those that are Black, understand the sacrifices that they've made. And so on behalf of all of my friends and my family, my generation, I thank each and every one of you for everything that you've done to allow for me to be successful.